Hello and welcome to Elizabeth and James's podcast, episode 3. We are finally
You can see us now.
filming this one so that, you can...
Put a face to the voice.
There you go.
Says,
What are we talking about today?
well, we're talking about our industry.
Showbiz.
Yeah, which is the show business industry.
Everything we know about showbiz.
Yeah.
Why do people care about what we think?
Well, I think we're pretty experienced between the two of us. We are by no means celebrities, but we have a very well-rounded set of skills, I think, because we're not celebrities. We've had to kind of sustain ourselves between jobs with other things, and being that we're both really creative, we've been lucky enough to find jobs that are in the business and actually kind of help us learn about the other side of things, which
Right.
I think has been really helpful for me. I can't speak for you, but I'm sure it is the case that we can see things from a different perspective. So it can only inform how we conduct ourselves on set or as actors, dealing with managers or other crew members. We kind of can see it from a lot of perspectives.
I think being that we've both crossed the 20-year mark in this industry, we could sort of call ourselves veterans by this point. So if anybody else wants to relate to what we're talking about and hear what we have to say, or if you're a new person that wants to know what 20 plus years in this industry looks like, let's just jump right into it. So
Yeah.
we have a unique perspective in that a lot of our side jobs that support our acting careers have been in the industry of everything from I've written, I've directed, I've produced, I've edited, I've stunt coordinated, I've worked crew, and that begins from being a production assistant all the way to I've been a camera operator, lead editor on many things, from commercials to films to web series to big corporate commercials that pay really well to feature films. And you've also had an extensive side gigging career that's sort of a lateral, support system within the industry. What about you?
Yeah. So I've production coordinated. I've also been a production assistant. I have actually worked on the financial side. So
How much everybody deserves to get paid?
Yeah, in bookkeeping.
You know who's getting shortchanged and who's getting overinflated in paychecks?
A little bit. As time goes by, I can compare things.
You've produced independent films?
Produced as well, for sure, and dealt with, the Screen Actors Guild and various kind of, location managers and camera houses. I've kind of got to know equipment, which I never thought that I would get to know about.
Even a lot of rewriting and editing on scripts you've been a part of as well,
Yeah.
which is
done
unique
a
for
bit of that.
a lot of actors don't get to do that unless they're producing the projects themselves. But you've produced so
Yeah.
many things, and you're a fantastic writer and editor.
Yeah, well, I do also have a background in writing, in that was what I studied at university. I never kind of went off and made it a career, but I always thought I would write to support my acting. Acting was always kind of the number one goal. But, as it happened, I've kind of branched off into other areas that have complemented.
Okay, so
being an actor.
let's start at the beginning. What's your recollection of your earliest professional TV or film job ever?
I mean, there were probably ones before this, but this was kind of my breakout in my eyes when I was 14. I was on a very, very well-known show in Australia called Hey Hey, It's Saturday. It was a kind of a variety show. And, I was in a comedy sketch on that show. And I basically, in real life, a young teenage girl had written a letter to the production saying how much she hated the show. And she just thought it wasn't funny. She just hated it. So then they employed me to play this girl. And then in the comedy sketch, which was with a very well-known comedian, basically he tortured me. He did things like put me inside a barrel and then put me in the city square and put a sign on the barrel that said, "Kick me." and he invited people to come up and kick the barrel. This actually did happen. I was in the barrel, but not when they were kicking me.
When they ended up kicking the barrel down a hill.
Down a hill and then to a construction site.
And that's when it was a sight gag at that point.
Then it got what's that machine called where they
like a bulldozer, like a wrecking ball?
Put it down into like a little, they squash it.
Oh, like a compactor?
Yeah, a compactor. And then the barrel was compacted. Supposedly, right. I was inside.
So they murdered you on the show. That was the joke.
It's kind of not funny.
It was a while. This is when you could get away with it.
This was like show my age.
This is like Saved by the Bell era when things weren't exactly politically correct or sensitive to young viewers.
So I was sort of a snarky teenage girl. That was kind of my first gig. And it was a studio thing, and it was
for like 10-year-olds on Saturday mornings?
No, it was an adult. It was an adult show.
Oh, it was an adult? Oh.
It was on Saturday nights.
Oh, it was on Saturday. I'm sorry. I thought it was a kid show.
Yeah, it was on Saturday nights, and it had everything from like comedy sketches to music to, I guess it was kind of like an SNL.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
And what did you learn about that first experience? What did you learn from it? What was your takeaway? You're 14?
I was 14. I was 14.
That's freshman year of high school. That's really young.
Yeah, I was young. And look, I had a lot of experience in theatre, but really the only experience in TV that I had was extra work. And that's great. That's a great learning ground to figure out how things work, but you don't have the pressure of having to say dialogue and kind of act, too much. You just have to respond. And looking back on the sketch, I really was a bit wooden, I've got to say. I think that my biggest issue when I was really starting out was that I overacted. I was just very theatrical. I didn't really understand
I think the nature of that show, I saw clips from that show you showed me. I think,
but I was playing a real person. I was supposed to be like someone who'd actually written into the show. And look, it wasn't bad. I'm not like poo-pooing my 14-year-old self because it was an achievement.
I saw clips from the show. It's a very broad show. I don't know if we have an equivalent.
It was broad. Yeah.
It was, I mean, from what I've seen, it had a bit of a British vibe to it, a little bit of a Benny Hill vibe.
Yeah, there wasn't like...
It's broad, is my point.
But it's not like sexist. And
Benny Hill was sexist?
Rude.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that was a very popular show. That was my very, very first kind of acting job.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't remember, to be honest. I remember a lot of extra
wasn't
work.
It? Oh, okay.
Starting out, which there's no shame in that. I was in college doing a lot of extra work. The very first thing I think I ever did was a DVD special feature for Independence Day with Jeff Goldblum. And the thing I remember most about him was when he ordered off the menu from the craft service truck, he just ignored the menu. Everybody was like, I'll have the number 2, I'll have the number 1. And he was like, I'll have do you have any angel hair pasta with maybe some olive oil? And of course they just catered to him. And this is way back in the 90s. That's the only thing I remembered about him because it was a very California moment for me. Because I had never seen...
you'd come from New York. So.
Yeah, I was on vacation and I was visiting my brother. And he helped me get on that set and be an extra. And I remember when Harry Met Sally is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I had never in my life seen like a real adult man do one of those ordering off the menu things. And again, this is like mid-90s. So that was the first time I ever saw somebody do that. And it was Jeff Goldblum ordering from the food truck and getting really specific about exactly how he wanted his angel hair pasta. And he was on a special diet. And back then,
pasta?
Well, carbs were not a bad thing in the 90s.
It's not very 2018. So.
Yeah, he didn't he didn't shy away from the carbs, but he was in fantastic shape.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I did a lot of work in the 90s in college. I was skipping a lot of classes. I don't know how I graduated, but I was ditching a lot of class to go to New York to work just on a 40-minute train ride from Rutgers to Manhattan. And did some print modeling jobs when I was 45 pounds lighter and an athlete. And then ton of extra work on movies and commercials and TV shows. Regular extra work on the second Cosby show that was just called Cosby. I did 2 seasons of that. And I watched Bill Cosby work every Wednesday and Thursday for like 2 years. That was a trip. That's all I have to say about that. And
Well, but aside from what we've now learned about Bill Cosby, you were pretty in awe of him, right?
Everybody was. It was
Yeah.
his show. He was a very generous and phenomenal improviser, and we just, it was the 90s, and we just watched him in awe. And yeah. And then the first I got my SAG card. This I remember anyway. Like a couple years later, I did a lot of theater as well, a lot of professional theater after college. And then when I finally got like a good agent and was auditioning, I got my SAG card doing a co-star in Law and Order.
Yes.
So that was a small episode, a small role in an episode that got me my SAG card, and that was sort of a rite of passage for any New York actor.
And didn't that give you the impetus to then move to LA? Or
Yeah, I was an intern at ABC Casting my junior year of college.
casting's another
Yeah,
aspect that you've worked in.
The very, very, very first thing I did in film and TV was I worked as an assistant in casting. That was my college internship, and there was an act. I would always see Daniel Day Kim. I would always see. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on his name. The Alan from Sesame Street. I would always see him. Is that his name?
Yeah.
The Japanese actor from Sesame Street.
Yeah.
I would also see.
We've been watching a lot of Sesame Street. We have a 2-year-old.
And I can't remember who it was. It was either one of those two guys, but one of them said, "Oh yeah, you got to go to LA." He's like, "I'm just in New York because I'm doing a show on Broadway, but you got to be in LA if you want to do film and TV. If you want to do theater, be in New York." This is in the '90s, so things are more or less the same.
Changing, but I think that's still
true.
True, but certainly film and TV in New York is picking up now.
So his advice to me was, you got to do Law and Order because you can't move to LA without credits. So if you're a New York actor, they expect to see Law and Order on your resume because it was like the longest running show for New York City.
It's like
that
in
wasn't
Australia, if you have
a soap opera,
Neighbours or Blue Heelers, then you.
And it manifested. 3 months later, I got my first audition for Law and Order, and I was a production assistant at MTV in Times Square. This is my first year out of college. Second year. My first year out of college, I did theater for a whole year. I was a resident theater actor in a repertoire company. So I was working at MTV in Times Square as a production assistant, and I had to audition on a Wednesday. And then I booked the job on Thursday, and then we shot on Friday. So the day I booked the job, they said, you need to go and join SAG today.
Right.
And at the time, this is like half of what it costs now. The initiation fee was like $1,500. Now it's like $3,000 or more.
Yeah.
And I was 22 years old, fresh out of college. I didn't have any money. And I had to borrow the money from my girlfriend's parents.
Oh, really?
Because my family didn't have any money. Nobody had.
What about you didn't have a credit card?
Not with no. I might have had a credit card.
I guess that's a high limit.
I might have had a credit card for like
kid.
$1,000.
Yeah, that's pretty high.
Fresh out of college, and they lent me the money, and then the job paid like $750, and I like gave that immediately to them. So then I owed them like another $750.
Girlfriend's parents.
But it took like 8 weeks to like get my paycheck and pay them, and then pay them back. So I had to. I auditioned like on a Wednesday, got the job on a Thursday, and they said you need to go to SAG right now and join. Coincidentally,
it's different now. Coincidentally, by the way. You don't have to join immediately. You can go net 30.
I worked on the 23rd floor of 1515 Broadway, the Paramount Viacom building in Times Square. The Screen Actors Guild office was like on the 8th floor of the same exact building. It was crazy. So during my lunch break, I like went down and I joined SAG and gave them this check that I didn't really have money for. And then the very next day, I basically said I can't come in tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And they were like, "Why not?" I'm like, "I need a personal day. I'm entitled to like 3 personal days a year as a PA." And I went and shot Law and Order, and I got my SAG card. And then the following year in January, I up and moved.
And then you did. Let me look up your. I have your IMDb page. You did Walker Texas Ranger next. Was that directly next?
Yeah, it was directly next.
It's a lot of credits.
So
I'm scrolling through right
in
now.
the summer of that year, I did Law and Order, and then 6 months later, my brother who got me in the Independence Day special features set, I crashed on his couch for about 3 months for pilot season. So I arrived in January, and I met with the agents and managers, and you know, back then it just seemed so easy. It just
It's
things,
really
things
hard
just
now.
things just
Really
happened.
hard. Yeah.
I would get the meeting, they would love me, I would smile, I would flex my muscles, and I would be charismatic and just put on the pony show. And then 2 days later, I'd be on an audition, and I auditioned for Walker Texas Ranger, and it was for a Karate Kid, and I did the scene.
Tommy.
Yeah, I did the scene, and then I did a backflip to showcase my martial arts skills.
Well, that was important for that show.
And it was a tiny little office. It was a little tiny casting office. The ceilings were like 7.5 feet tall. And I could do backflips, so I threw one along with my jumping, spinning hook kicks and stuff. And they were very impressed. And I got flown to Dallas, Texas, like 2 days later, first class.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, and they had the guy with the sign.
Chuck Norris money.
And the chauffeur with the black suit and the sign with my name. I was a young kid. It was exciting.
So you were ruined after that. If that was your first job.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I had some of my first jobs. I remember one job that I had in Australia, and it required... Now, Australia's not always warm, contrary to what people think, especially Melbourne. It's a freezing cold day. It was like 6 a.m., and they required us to wear short running shorts and tank tops and run through mud. And people were throwing mud at us to make it look like it was extra kind of
Was this
dirty.
supposed to be funny or like scantily clad?
No,
like,
no,
sexy?
it was funny.
Okay.
I was still a teenager. It wasn't. I wasn't being.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm thinking of Saved by the Bell. They constantly put like Kelly Kapowski in tight.
No,
little-
it was
tight
a
little
kids
outfits.
show.
Okay.
It was a kids show. It wasn't. It was like Saved by the Bell's like teens. This was for young kids.
Okay, so now we're back to you. I just said Kelly Kapowski. I haven't said that in 20 years.
And I remember coming home and throwing up because I was so cold and so uncomfortable. I had mud. I felt like I'd been tortured. Mud thrown at me. I won't name the show.
Wow.
Mud thrown at me, running, cold. It was a really long day, really early day. And, but I still came back for more. But
Okay,
you
so
know.
that's interesting. So we went from like a highlight of me just like booking 2 roles like it was nothing.
And flying first class.
Yeah. Also, by the way, both of those characters were written as Latinos. Like the first guy was like Officer Perez, and the second one was like
That's
Luis.
interesting.
And then they changed my character name to like Officer Chang
And
and
Tommy.
Tommy. So yeah, that was an especially big point of pride that like I was representing for the Asians. So we've gone from like a really good experience to a really horrible experience. Like,
Yeah.
what was a moment in your career where you early on was just like, I can do this?
I mean,
Because it was like such a great experience, and you drink.
so what was a great
I mean, what's the
experience?
expression? You drink the Kool-Aid, you go
Yeah.
through something and you're just like, hypnotized by how wonderful things can be, and you think, okay, this is it. This is the bee's knees.
I mean, that's the actor's kind of journey, isn't it? I mean, we wouldn't do this. The average gigging actor, or not gigging actor, we're not talking about the celebrities, but even maybe the celebrities, I don't know. But we wouldn't do this if there wasn't something that was continually bringing us back, because it doesn't pay very well if in the scheme of things, and it's there's a lot of rejection.
Well,
and
the funny thing is it does pay well.
Difficulty.
But what
No, it doesn't.
What happens is
in the long
time.
term. Yeah.
Time is expensive.
The number of jobs versus
1 month of rent is
spread
like,
thin.
yeah, okay, I got 1 month of rent. 4 months of rent, 5-6 months of rent. That's where it suddenly feels like, wow, these acting jobs aren't paying well.
And
but acting jobs do.
You don't
pay
know
well.
when the next check's going to come.
It could take 6 months, 12 months, who knows what, to
Yeah.
get paid again as an actor, and that's what's the tricky part, is that everybody struggles with the side gig and the side hustle. So,
Right.
Okay. Tell me a job that made you like get all starry eyed and be like, I was meant to do this, because you've been doing it for over 20 years.
I mean, honestly, I think that the bulk of what's given me a really good experience have been theatre jobs.
Oh.
Honestly, like I mean, obviously I came to LA.
So it wasn't the money; it was the experience.
Yes. Yeah, no. It's never been about the money. It really hasn't. Because honestly, I started in Australia and the money's not anywhere near what it is here in the US. It's not. We
Yeah.
don't get the same kind of residuals.
Yeah.
Everything's kind of a buyout. Even series regulars on some of the most popular shows, they're making a good living for sure, but they're not rolling in money.
So how has that affected your happiness? Because I think it's important for young people to hear this, even not young people, because I relate to that. Some of the best experiences I've ever had were not well paying or didn't pay at all, and oftentimes, even though there's glitz and glamour in big Warner Brothers, Universal Studios, Disney jobs that pay a lot, and you get a big trailer and you're rubbing elbows with stars, and you get to tell your friends and family you're going to be on TV or in this movie, and everybody's like, wow, and they're impressed. Like, 9 out of 10 times, the best experiences are these like low budget, non-paying small films or theater jobs. And that is true. That is very true. And they're fulfilling because you get to really sink your teeth deep into an experience, and you have an intimacy with your fellow castmates and crew that you just don't have on network TV and film.
It's honestly, and even...
I mean, everybody on network TV and film, God bless them, they're just stressed out. They are just...
It's hard.
Hard-working, stressed
There's
out
last-minute
people.
script changes. They don't have time to languish in their character's journey.
They're
just
dealing
have to do
with
it.
job insecurity because shit rolls downhill in studios, and they are just worried about looking bad and getting fired because every single set something goes wrong and nobody wants to be at fault. Mm-hmm. So everybody's really stressed out, wants to prove they're doing a good job, and they have no capacity to be chummy.
Yeah,
And
I mean, the
on an
stakes are
independent
really
film,
high.
Indie films, you're going to go late, you're not getting paid, you're not doing it for the paycheck.
I mean, that morale...
All you can do.
Yeah, morale can still be low if you're not getting paid well and the hours are long.
Or if the people in charge are not kind.
Yeah. So obviously with every job, every kind of set that you work on, it's going to be different. But me personally...
Indie films, you get to chummy up with people.
Yeah.
And develop personal relationships and have time to have a chat.
And that's... And I haven't done a lot of theatre, obviously, since I've been in LA. But the closest thing that I have done is independent film, and what's been great about these independent films that I've done is that I have a much meatier role because a lot of the network stuff that I do, my roles are small. They're guest star, co-star. Maybe I'll get to do a couple of episodes of one show, but I'm never kind of there long enough to really establish.
What you're doing professionally is not difficult. As a trained actor,
it's still difficult. I would never say it's not difficult.
I kind of would disagree with you.
I think that it comes with its own challenges in that
nerves, maybe
you're walking into a set of people that have been working together for a very long time, and you have a limited amount of time to do your thing, nail it, and get out of there. And that's a whole other thing. Whereas if it's a long film or even you're a series regular on something, to a degree, you have kind of a license to explore your character, get to know people, try things out. But as a guest star, co-star, they just want you to do your job. They don't want you to try things out.
Right.
They don't want you to be...
You're a plot point, and you have to hit the plot point so that the lead actors and stars of the show can then have their moments.
It's not about you.
Right.
Very, very rarely. Maybe in some cases.
That's why I feel like there's no pressure in these guest stars and co-stars, because it's not a difficult job.
See, I feel the pressure in that I want to nail it, because I know that my kind of... I'm working in a very narrow field, so I want to make sure that I give them what they need in a short amount of time.
I have a weird blind confidence.
Yeah, you're very different to me in that way.
I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it's sports. Maybe it's just this need to conquer. I spent my whole life being an athlete. I don't know where it comes from, or maybe it just comes from a chip on my shoulder. I grew up with a chip on my shoulder, where I'm just like, F you. I'm going to show you what I can do.
So actors, you need a chip on your shoulder.
Possibly, but I channeled that, and whenever
that's good.
Whenever I'm around these bigwigs, I'm very respectful and I'm very quiet when and I just quietly do my thing. But when it's go time, I just feel like it's the easiest thing in the world, because in a guest star co-star thing, it's just I understand the script. When you understand script analysis and you understand your part in the cog.
Yeah, that's why training's very important.
Yeah, I got all this from training.
Yeah.
But you just go in there and you're like, yeah, I can do that. That's fine. That's completely within my wheelhouse. And then when there is a meaty role that you could take on, which as any working actor, it's usually going to be an indie, low budget paying thing because you get the opportunities to do a meatier role with more just more to it, more meat to chew on. Then that's exciting, and it's not about the paycheck; it's about the experience, it's about the work and the craft.
Yeah, and it's about I think as an actor, obviously you want the network credits and you want the commercials and you want the things that pay well,
because it's important to prolong your career.
And that's that's a working actor. However, I think that as an artist, your soul's not going to be fed unless you do. And you don't have to do it all the time, because now that, we have a family, we have a child, it's obviously harder to accept things that are, $100 a day for several months, and then you go back for reshoots and then night shoots and things like that. That's hard.
But you know what's also telling is that we've been in LA a long time now. We've been in this town a long time, have hundreds of friends that are actors. Mm-hmm. And they are all either from mostly acting class and small, low-budget independent films.
Yeah, that's
and
kind
TV
of how
shows.
you do connect.
Right.
Yeah.
Acting class in these low-budget things where you can actually make friends and have time to have a conversation with people.
Yeah.
Whereas, I've done a ton of studio films and network shows, and so have you, and you could probably count on all your fingers and how many people you've stayed in touch with on those jobs, because you go to your trailer and they go to their trailers, and then you get the cast share and everybody else is working, and maybe you have 5 minutes to powwow with the guy you're going to do your scene with, and then you're on stage and you're on. You got to do your scene. There's no glad handing, and then when the day is done, you go home. Everybody wants to go home. They rush home.
Yeah.
So there's really like no interpersonal relationship building on film and television shows that are big budget network jobs, studio jobs, and. Yeah, I mean, we've gone off into this tangent, but I think it's an important one in that these lower paying passion projects and student films...
If you can afford to do them, like, obviously some people can't.
There's a lot of value.
They're important. There's
a lot of value.
I agree.
And it comes down to the relationships that you make. Because you never know who's going to also, be able to work with you again and recommend you for other projects.
And, and not that this would be the reason why you do a project, because I hate when people say something like, well, you don't know who this person's going to be in 10 years. That shouldn't be a reason for doing a project. But there is truth to that. So that's an added thing. Obviously, don't do a project because you don't want to miss out on, meeting the next...
No, but all of our friends...
I was about to say Harvey Weinstein, but that's not...
But all of our friends,
what you want.
We've met either from acting classes or small independent projects.
Definitely. And the friends that I've gotten from network things have always been, people kind of at my level. They're also a co-star, guest star. And, maybe we're playing in the same scene, and that's how we develop friendships. I'm in contact with those people a lot. But, yeah, very rarely am I... in contact with the director of the show. I'm lucky sometimes on network shows if the director even says hello to me.
Yeah. I've
Honestly.
been on sets where 5 different people have given me directions, and I have absolutely no idea who they are or who the actual director is.
Yeah.
That has happened over and over and over again on TV shows.
And that will happen a lot.
Where like 5 different people are like, you need to do it this way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, who are you? And nobody takes the time to even introduce themselves.
Yeah. And I get it. It's very fast paced. Some of these are 13-hour days, and you're not the priority, because
you're not the priority.
If you're a
It's
guest
not all
star,
about
co-star, generally speaking, unless it's like a really important character arc, that shifts something in the series, you're generally not going to be paid attention to because you're a plot giver.
So let's wrap up this quick episode here with that high point. It may sound a little bit discouraging that these big budget studio projects are a little disheartening.
But we'll take them. Don't get us wrong.
It's going to pay your rent, so there's the upside. But, I think the message here is to embrace the smaller things and don't feel like you're too big, or don't let your ego get ahead of yourself where you can't do a student film or a small independent project.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think ego definitely. Because
you're going to get a lot of really good stuff out of those experiences. If you're an open-minded, cool person, which a lot of actors aren't, but a lot of actors are, and those are the people that we're friends with.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've had 20 years of experience, but I only just recently did a student film, an AFI student film for no pay.
It was a great experience.
It was great. Like, you know.
And you got some of those people a job on another film.
I did,
People are always like, hey, I need a makeup artist. Hey, I need an art director.
Because I also do production coordinating.
So then they were like, hey, Libby, I need somebody.
So I guess I've become that person that you never know
you
who
got
they are.
people, just like we both have done this millions of times, but you got people jobs just as recently as this past summer. Because people rely on you. All right, so that's the moral of the story.
What is the moral? I'm not sure we quite got to a moral.
It's about, put your ego in check and don't like understand that like there's the big high profile things that are rewarding and financially awesome. And your
also awesome experience.
And your parents actually start to understand what you do for a living.
Right.
So there's the studio stuff up here, but then the indie things, don't poo-poo them. Don't shit on the low budget, non-paying indie stuff all the time, because that's where a lot of really great relationships get forged and future opportunities get made and just some of the best work that you could potentially do.
You also get I mean, for myself as well, like honestly, the leading roles, the meaty roles that I've played have all been in indie film.
Yeah.
Co-star, guest stars, recurrings in TV and film, but not anywhere near the kind of character stuff which I love from theatre.
And to your credit, you're the last person to ever have an ego on set. You always show up ready to work.
I need to be a little bit more assertive. So
you are a bit of a pushover. Opposite. That's another story. But yeah, you show up to set ready to work. You're the friendliest person.
Definitely, I try to be very prepared.
You're prepared and you're friendly, and that is, I think, two of the key proponents to being a happy, successful working actor, because we've run into our fair share of people that are not either prepared or crap on the lower paying jobs, and they're just like, yeah, whatever, it's not Warner Brothers. So they it comes down to the simplest adage of you get out of it what you put into it.
But we did I know we're finishing up, but that one, we won't mention the actor's name, but you were there, I was not, but a well-known TV actor who did an indie short with you, and he was being paid quite handsomely because he was a star name.
Yeah, they paid him a lot.
Didn't even learn his lines.
Didn't learn his lines.
He had to be cued, prompted.
He did sentence by sentence by sentence, and the director the director fed him the lines, and he would just repeat the line, and they had to then edit the monologue and the whole scene based on his ability to only say one line at a time. It kind of reminds me of Michael Jordan's Space Jam. Michael Jordan could not remember his lines and wasn't an actor. And now
but he had an excuse. He wasn't an actor.
Now he's starring in a movie with Bugs Bunny. And so if you watch that movie, everybody watched Space Jam. He says like 3 words at a time. He's like, you kidding me? And then they cut to Bugs Bunny. You can't be serious. Cut to Bugs Bunny. Oh, man, I don't know about that. Cut to Bugs Bunny. Like, he never said more than 3 words at a time. He was
working with an animated character, because you could cut to... There were boundless close-ups of Bugs Bunny, because they could be created in post.
He only said 1 sentence at a time, and every sentence was 3 to 4 words.
Yeah, but it's different, because he wasn't hired because he was a good actor, which this other person was. He just didn't do the work.
He got a huge payday for a single day of work, like probably more than he did on his regular TV gig.
Oh, per day, absolutely.
Because he worked 1 day. He got a huge paycheck for 1 day of work.
Absolutely.
Way more than he gets for his daily rate on a TV show.
Yes, absolutely.
But, there's no residuals for it. But even so, he showed up completely unprepared, and everybody hates him.
Yeah.
Everybody from the show hates him. So
yeah,
that's what happens.
Everyone on the crew was just because it made everyone's day longer.
Right, so he went from being like a well-known, respected TV actor to then
their eyes,
to then working with 20 people, and now there's 20 more people in Hollywood that hate him.
Maybe not hate him, but
hate him.
Rue his...
He sucks.
Work ethic.
We hate him.
Because it was a night shoot.
And he wrecked the whole day. He cost the whole production more money.
Yeah.
He made everybody go from an agreed 12-hour day to like a 16-hour day. So instead of driving home at midnight, we drove home at like 4 in the morning. Like shit like that. This is not cool.
It's not cool. Just be prepared. No matter what.
So we were like, driving home from Reseda, like...
Thankfully, no one got hurt, because you hear stories of that all the time.
I had energy at midnight. I was ready to drive home at midnight, and
Yeah.
then 4 a.m. I'm like
Well, that's
falling
because
asleep.
what you expected the day to be. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think just be prepared and don't. And yeah, as you say, there's no such, as they say, no such thing as small parts. You know,
Only small people.
only small people. So just treat everything as a professional that you are.
We're going to keep this talk going for part 2. That was part 1. We're signing off. Thanks for watching. That was episode 3 of Elizabeth and James's podcast on our first videotaped one.
Peace.